Yeah, so I wonder if that was possibly just OBS becoming a little bit overloaded, or the audio sampling issue could have been a thing. Well, welcome back. I will give everybody a moment to tune back in. Mute myself so I don't hear myself echo. There we go. Sweet. Yeah, hopefully that solves the issue in the long run. I don't think I experienced that last stream, so that's a little bit odd because I literally changed nothing. But I guess things just manifest. Okay. Well, we only have about 40 minutes left in the stream anyway. I'll have to clip these videos together later, maybe cut out that part in the middle. Not a problem because I am learning how to do that. Still giving people a moment to tune back in, and possibly for new viewers to join. But where we left off, we were talking about the four fallen, part of the Jaina pantheon, lost gods not known to the tribes today, but once worshipped across the face of Salika, or Shalaka as it was known at the time. Back in the day, these four held sway over important aspects of the Jaina's lives, but eventually they betrayed the people in various ways. We just talked about Turash, the muse of memory, and next we were going to jump into Jarash and why his existence means that certain things attributed to Razesh are in fact a lie. Okay, so jumping right back in with Jarash. So, as I mentioned earlier, Razesh is known as the muse of light and the sun. This is a lie meant to hide the truth. Jarash is in fact the muse of light and fire. Far, far back in history, Jarash was in fact the one that brought the fires of the sun from Ember, the red sun, down to the first Jaina. He gave them the gift of fire. He taught them the way of the forge. This, in and of itself, was the first and worst betrayal, because Jarash forged the first blade of the Jaina. And in this he taught them of war and turned brother against brother. This was his crime, and for it he was eventually defeated and broken. Having brought conflict to the face of Salika, he failed in his guardianship of it, and instead wrought its destruction. Next, among the four fallen, we have Laikash, the muse of silence and mystery. So, Laikash held sway over mystery. It is important to the Jaina and to the peoples of the world to have mystery in their lives, to not be able to see everything, because a part of existence, a part of mortality, is in discovery. And so, by sowing mystery, Lykosh was meant to stimulate the Rama, to allow the peoples of Shalika to grow by discovery, to shape themselves. But they fell into the vice of mystery instead. They found joy in burying truth, in hiding things from view that had already been discovered, never to be seen again. And they were responsible for the plague of silence. The ultimate mystery, of course, is in words not spoken. And Lykosh's plague of silence sealed the lips of people. It stole their will to speak, and thus left 100 things unsaid. It made mysteries of every aspect of life, and it broke down the bonds of a society where, instead of sharing and discovering together, everyone held their secrets tight to their chest, and it broke people apart. Another part of the plague of silence was the terrible act of not speaking up for things that had been seen. And so, of course, this betrayal led to them becoming one of the four fallen. Lastly, and very importantly, we have Kadash. Kadash was the muse of empathy. And this, in and of itself, did not change like the others. They did not become something else. They just took upon themselves too much. So, Kadash was one of the most well-loved muses in all of Jaina society. As the muse of empathy, people found that they could come to Kadash, one of the only gods that would listen to all of their woes and ask nothing in exchange. People would come to them constantly with their sorrows, and as they poured them out more and more and more upon Kadash, and they took them in, ever listening to these problems, ever reaching out and making people feel better for being heard, they themselves became bitter. As the muse of empathy, they could understand the origins of everyone's pain. They were the ultimate force of understanding, of connection. And unfortunately, this meant that they felt it too. Eventually, they broke. By seeing the source of each person's pain and anger, they vowed to put an end to it all. And although they remained the muse of empathy, they also became the muse of vengeance and sorrow. They sought to burn away the source of everyone's pain. But oftentimes, the sources of people's pain was themselves, or even people that they held dear. And so, in attempting to destroy these sources and burn them away, they only caused more sorrow. Eventually, this led to them becoming something very, very dark indeed. By taking on all of this negative emotion, they transformed themselves into something, from something that was once kind into something that was then terrible. Much like the god from which they came, Zeramis, these four were eventually shattered. And as my players have discovered, became the 16 muses, the 16 espers that one of my players now seeks. These espers were fragments of divine power, guardians bound into the form of a sigil to be commanded in the guardianship of the nations of the Jaina. So there was one that was placed in every major city, and slowly but surely my players are going out attempting to find these and to take command of them. There is a prophecy. One of my players, by the name of Nathrisa, is an Aasimar, a child of an angel in dedication to Ardent. She bears a mark of Ardent as a chosen of him. And it was in a dream to her that her mother came and delivered unto her a vision. And I won't read the whole thing, but I will read the words that her mother said. She said, "The throne is empty, the city weeps, the slumber is unbroken. From 1 came 8, from 4, 16, from 16 shall come 1, the heir of light and progress shall rise." This prophecy has been passed down for thousands of years since the formation of the espers, and it is the prophecy that one day a chosen will come along and regather these espers, these 16, and forge them together again within themselves, and lead the world to salvation. Now, of course, the salvation in question is undefined. The calamity was as yet undefined when this was written, but my players are beginning to get the gist. Don't tell them. Players, tune out. Okay. The throne is empty refers to Ardent. For a very long time now, his throne has sat empty. There is nobody to take his seat in Eidolon, and there is a war in the heavens for this throne. This is because Ardent is dead. Nathrisa has had a vision of the body of Ardent consumed by a darkness far past the edges of the Astra, his power drained away, a dead god. Of course, this is terrifying for the world, because without the god of growth and civilization, what's to come of the peoples, the civilizations of the world? Oh, goodness, I wish that my voice would not do that today. Yeah. The regathering of the espers is the first step in fixing this problem. It must be the chosen. Only a person of holy blood could possibly gather these fragments of divinity inside themselves and eventually reforge them into something that could reseat the throne that rules over civilization or bring Ardent back from the grave. The question is, what exactly happens when that occurs? Will she be the one to sit the throne? Is it meant to be her? Is she meant to gather this power to revive and revitalize Ardent? These are the questions that they are eventually going to have to face. And of course, the reason why they are known as the Heir of Light and Progress is because these fragments were once from the god Zeramus, the god of light and progress. So, there's a fun little fact for you. So far, they've managed to gather 1 of the 16 espers. Only 15 more to go. That will get increasingly harder to fight, and they nearly died the first time, so wish them luck. Should be fun. Now, I think I've run through just about everything that I could possibly talk about right now, that I could possibly reveal about my gods of my world. So, this would be a good question. Sorry, this would be a good time for questions if anybody has them. Ah, I did not. This is a massive secret. But... I might double back to how Ardent died. No, I did not. In fact, talk about that. It is a massive secret. I do know that does exist. I'm just wondering if I should say... Hello, Tulkin. Welcome to the stream. You tuned in right as I've finished talking about my very expansive pantheon. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. But, Demons, you asked about the espers. I most certainly can double back and talk about those. So, at the the first Dragon's Blood War, there was, of course, the betrayal of Arum. Having sowed greed into the hearts of the first peoples of Vanis, the Great Drakes, the Dragons, and the Dragonborn, the people turned against the gods and sought to steal their power and their wealth. And Zeramis, the god of light and progress and change, saw this as a vast change and, of course, joined their side. They were eventually defeated and split into 8. And the Great Drakes forged these 8 into the 8 Muses. 4 of which remain, and 4 of which, the 4 fallen, were split apart for their own betrayals against the Jaina people into the 16 espers. So you have... sorry, scrolling through my notes. Turash, the Muse of Memory and Lies, was shattered into 5 different espers. You have Jarash, the Muse of Light and Fire, shattered into 6 different espers. You have Laikash, the Muse of Silence and Mystery, shattered into 4 different espers. And then you have Kadash. And Kadash remained whole, so thoroughly transformed by the emotions that became them. The Muse of Empathy, of Vengeance, and Sorrow was instead bound whole and transformed into something entirely new. These espers that were left behind were set into crystals and into sigils that bound their very beings, their fragments of divinity, into guardianship, wherein they could be called upon at great risk to the person who tried to defend the cities of the ancient Jaina. They stood in guardianship perpetually over the vaults that only the priests of various orders could access, wherein the most valuable pieces of Jaina history and culture were locked away in protection, and anybody that wished to access them would have to be very strong indeed to face down these fragments of divinity, to defeat them, and get past in the time where they then slumbered and regathered their energy. Even more daunting, though, is the thought of drawing them out in defense of the city. Being such powerful conglomerations of Aether, it is almost certainly deadly for anybody who does not have a fragment of divinity within their soul themselves to take on their power and command them, because they do have minds of their own. Take, for example, Belias the Gigas, and there may be some of you that recognize these names, because yes, I did in fact for some of these take inspiration from the Espers of Final Fantasy XII. Some might even say in certain instances they are almost the same. So Belias the Gigas is the scion of the burning, or scion of the first flame. Split from Jarash, one of the six, he was set in guardianship of the Vault of Bestunol. He was taken from Jarash's head and forged from this, and he bore the power of the first flame. So his element is fire. But more than that, since it is a power of divinity as well, and the first flame was not just a power of Jarash, but also from Imber. The fire of Belias could be consumed by the priests in order to catch a glimpse of the future at great cost to their bodies, and this they did. The Vidarja Keith, the leaders of the religious aspects of the Society of Bestunol, would, as part of their ascension to this role, swallow inside them a taste of the first flame and see the future along the continuity of the first flame until it vanished from the world. They could see from its beginning to its end, but it would burn them from the inside out. They could only do this so many times. So the Vidarja Keith that the players met, one that had been slumbering for nearly 1,500 years, when they met her, this manted person, all of her chitin was cracked and burned. The power is too immense for mortals to take upon themselves. And yes, that is true. I use inspiration toolkin very heavily from various different sources. I try to keep the majority of the world my own, but of course there is just so very much going on that oftentimes you'll see reflections of the stories that I enjoy, games, movies, and the like, reflected in my world. This being one of them. And I am, by the way, I did not say Toolkin. I am very happy to see another creator in here. I always love speaking to creators of worlds because just witnessing the inspiration of other people's worlds really revitalizes my own inspiration as well. So welcome to the stream, and I hope that you continue to join as I continue to do future ones. Now, Demons, if that answered your question, fantastic. I am open to further questions now, if anybody would like to ask me anything. And I didn't know that you were working on a game, Demons, so you and I will have to talk about that sometime, because I'd be very interested to hear what it is you're working on. I love bouncing ideas back and forth between creators. It helps to build my world. It helps to build their world. I love to see things just come into being, our own creations. So is my pantheon powered from followers? Yes and no. The gods exist as the gods as entities do fuel like some of their higher power based on the faith of their followers, but it is not essential to their being. They do not vanish when it is gone. They diminish in strength. They need it for when they are freshly made. They need it in order to ascend into their position, but lack of it only makes them dim, so to speak. It does not destroy them. So unlike in D&D, where you have the corpses of dead gods floating in the Astra because people have lost faith in knowledge, forgotten gods may still be able to walk the surface of Vanis. Some may even choose to be forgotten. It'll be interesting to talk about that then, Demons. I haven't delved into Pathfinder's First World lore. I've only touched in D&D, and I've kind of thrown myself really heavily into that because since this is a world that's meant to exist in the mechanical aspect of D&D, I have to understand what aspects of the lore I want to keep and what I want to throw out, especially with the planes, since they work so differently in my world. I've recently been eating up all of the lore on the ethereal plane and using it to mold my world's ethereal plane, which should be very interesting because one of my players has finally started to do research on the ethereal plane. Random versus organized creation. I'm not sure that I'm familiar with the concept of that, but I would love to be. So poke me sometime when we're both free, because we have each other on Discord, Demons, and it'd be great to chat about that. Maybe as I'm, working on maps of stuff. I didn't swear, I swear. Yes, Tulkin. And I did actually touch on this with Adwin, the Lady of Magic. She was not originally a god. She was one of the first children of Vanis, who, in a challenge to Surgaya, well worded and well prepared for, she was given a boon that eventually helped her ascend into the rank of the god of knowledge. She bore a great deal of magical power within herself, of willpower, and it was this in those early times that helped her to ascend, along with supplication from people. Now, there are also ancient ones, primal beings, so to speak, that exist beyond the gods. In some instances more powerful than them, in some instances their source. Plenty of things that come from the far planes might be equivalent to a god, even, and need no supplication. That, I don't have any players on. Ooh. I'm always iffy about pouring out secrets that my players have not discovered, because I wonder if they'll go and look at my YouTube. But I'm going to operate on the hope that they will not do that, because I will kill their characters. And I will say this. I talked earlier about my god, Noct, the Lord of Night, a primal entity. As night has always existed, so too has Noct. He has no beginning, and he has no end. He is an elder being. People refer to him as a god because he reaches in and interacts with Vanis quite frequently, attempting to corrupt Alunair, sending his creatures of night into the world to seek its corruption, but they don't understand why. So, the secret of why ties into a massive, massive secret that Aelin, one of the players in my campaign, is definitely going to want to hear, but if she's watching this video later on YouTube, she should definitely stop here and discover it in her own time. One of the reasons why Noct is so hell-bent on corrupting Alunair is not the reason people think. People say that it is because she is the brightness in his night, and he wants to return it to darkness. That's not true. There are two forces, two primal forces, constantly at war in the universe, the cosmos above, far beyond where the people of the world below don't even notice them. Deep within the source, the source of all aether in the multiverse, is an unnamed being of light that embodies the aspect of light in my world, the aspect of destruction and dissipation, the aspect of shattering and changing. Just like the source radiates out, this is how light functions in my world. Light is not a tool of creation, it is a tool of destruction, of dissipation and of change, and so too is this primal being. Noct is exactly the opposite. Noct is a being of rejoining, of reclamation, of shadow, of darkness. And although he cannot truly be referenced as a being of creation, he is a being of conglomeration. These two have been at war since before time was a thing. Since before Vanis and this universe existed. And it was their fault that the universe came into being. This god of the source, in a desperate attack on Noct, ripped from him his heart. And that heart was Alunair. This act, this splitting of Noct, initiated change within the universe. It initiated a split, a shattering that forged the first gods. And as the war continued to brew, as this creature of the source continued to land blow after blow against Noct, more and more shattered, more and more split, more and more changed within the universe. It is their fault that anything exists at all. It is their fault that the twinnings of the gods continue to occur. As they split the gods when they grow too powerful, they make more and more and more. And meanwhile, Noct is constantly trying to rejoin and rejoin and rejoin and bring everything back into one and back into himself. That's the eternal battle of the primal beings. Interesting. Yeah, so Tulkin, you said that you had players who had and still have deep religious faith. Engineering the world in the way that you do opens the doorways so as to not make them uncomfortable in a real-life aspect. That's a great point. Now, I haven't struggled that with my players. None of them are particularly heavily religious, and they can very easily separate fantasy and reality, even if they are. So they understand that their characters are not them, that these gods are not real, and that their characters giving supplication to these gods is not even were they to hold faith, is not an insult to their own. Yeah. Oh, no, I totally understand. I came from Texas, from a Southern Baptist household, and although my parents weren't that bad, I have seen plenty of families who are. The kinds of families who are like, well, if you watch Harry Potter, then God will send you to hell. So, yeah, I understand that it can be difficult, especially 30 years ago. So now that you've eaten up that fantastic secret about my world that my players don't know, what else would you like to know? We have a couple more minutes left in the stream. I was going to wrap up at 7 because my boyfriend needs his mic back so that he can do his stream. But I am open to one or two more questions. Yeah, well, Bible thumpers will constantly claim that, you know, you're devil worshipping by doing anything outside of the norm, which frankly is kind of blasphemous and in and of itself, in my opinion, just comparing anything and everything that you don't like to the devil, seems like something that God would be upset about. Just saying. Foosball is the pool halls. Pool halls are the devil's work, guys. You watch out for those pool halls. Don't let them in your city. Duran Duran. Well, I mean, it's Duran Duran. Let's be honest. They might be the devil. You never know. Also, thank you very much for the follow token. I did see the notification pop up. I was just in the middle of talking. I appreciate every follow that I get. I also appreciate anyone who shares my content with their friends. Really, it is community that's going to make this channel grow, and the more people that I have following, have watching, the more support that this receives, the more time I can dedicate to the building of my world, the more time that I can dedicate to the creation of videos and streaming like this. What is my setup as a player like? Do I keep physical notes on hand, etc.? So you're talking about when I'm a player? Or are you talking about for my players? When I'm a player, yeah, I do actually keep physical notes on hand. So you see this right here? This is my little DM's journal. And whenever it fits into my pocket on some of my jeans, so I can take it anywhere, and that way when I have a great idea, I can scroll it down, or in the middle of a session, I can scroll it down. I do the same thing for my characters. This one is for Azure in my Monday campaign. And I no longer take notes in my character's voice because I miss out on 90% of what I was going to write, because I already write in Chicken Scratch and I am slow. I'm probably going to end up transferring it as a player into doing it through Google Docs because I can type 10 times faster than I can write. And yeah, oh gosh, I'm so glad that I got this journal. This helps out fantastically. I have in here all of the details of dreams that my players have had as they've happened, conversations with NPCs. I can write down the important points, things that NPCs have discovered. I can make notes about how well they rolled. I can make notes about when things are set to be done. It's fantastic. Oh, index cards. Not a bad idea. I used those for handouts when I had a physical game. Somewhere around here I have a little set of note cards, and like my players had to figure out a runic system, and like go letter by letter for translation, and I put them on that. Physical spell book is nice. I had that for one of my previous characters, Shusha. I actually had in there all of his spells written out like a real spell book. I had the incantations that he would read, and I would read them out when he was casting the spell. I do always have a million tabs open, though, mind you, because that giant binder is about a quarter of what I have written. I've stopped wasting paper, except on things that I need to be able to flip to right in front of myself. And now I've gone the least efficient route of splitting it between 90 Google documents, and I really need to reorganize because I have tidbits of very important lore that are hidden within former modules that I've run. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for joining in, Dimmons. It was great to see. It was great to rant about my gods for hours. I love talking about my pantheon. They're a driving force behind this game. And actually, I am going to go ahead and start wrapping up my stream here, as we are hitting the 7 p.m. mark. So enjoy your dinner, Demons, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Thank you, Jinx. I know you're still lurking out there. Thank you, Slev. Token, welcome. I hope to see you again. Whenever I do these videos, I am all about being asked questions and about opening discussions, especially between other creators. So keep your eyes peeled for future games. Check out my YouTube if you have the chance. I put these videos up there as well as board game reviews. My first one will be coming soon. And keep a smile on your face, everybody. And I will see you again next week, or possibly Sunday. We'll see.